Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's that time of the week again where there's absolutely bugger all to talk about. Sweet F.A. nothing. But as usual, we will try and fashion a video out of the smallest bits of news. So today, let's talk about some Celtic players who are no currently with us. That makes it sound like, I mean players that have been loaned out, not dead. Hello, like and subscribe if you haven't already, it would be much appreciated. Today we're going to talk about the future of some Celtic players who are currently playing their football elsewhere. Yes, those players that we loaned out throughout the season to other clubs to see if we can get something out of them, whether they be flops like Barkas and Ageti or ones for the future like Kenny and Montgomery. You know, we're going to try and cover all of the players and give a little bit of context as to what could be their future at Celtic, because the manager, Ange Speaks, he was speaking in the media this morning and gave an indication as to what could happen with them and what their futures may look like. Not much of an indication, but something nonetheless. Currently, Celtic have 12 players out on loan. Here on screen are the 12 players who are currently playing their football for other clubs, but will return to Celtic at some point or another. The reason I say some point or another is because there's that one player there, Yosuke Ideguchi, who won't return till January because he's been loaned out to the J-League. But the rest of the guys on screen currently playing their football elsewhere, quickly run over them: Basilis Barkas, Toby Oluwayemi, Liam Scales, Osaze Origide, Yohan Otu, Adam Montgomery, Ismaila Soro, Liam Shaw, Mikey Johnson, Johnny Kenny and Albion Ayeti. Some players who we signed for some big money out on loan, and we probably don't expect them to have much of a future at Celtic. But yeah, let's quickly look at them. By all accounts, I think that this has actually been a semi-successful crop of players out on loan. I look at most of these guys, and when keeping tabs on them throughout the season, most of them have had a decent enough campaign. Barkas has been brilliant at Utrecht, they're desperate to keep him. Liam Scales has been solid at Aberdeen, he's had a good season, ups and downs but mostly solid. Ayeti's scored a few goals, you see him popping up every now and then, seems to be doing okay. Mikey Johnson's had a great time over in Portugal, as we all know. Yohan Otu promoted with Dunfermline. Adam Montgomery, he's getting good words at St Johnstone. So most of the players have managed to make made good use of their time while being out on loan. Now, whether or not that means they have a future at Celtic, completely different story. But loan moves at Celtic are a bit of a curse. They're not exactly ideal. It's very rare that I feel like we loan out a player and they come back and have a massive impact. Of course there's examples, but in the grand scheme of things, how many in 10 come back and have a big impact moving forward at Celtic? Not very many. So I am kind of sceptical that we'll see them have a great future at Celtic. But listen, they could have made far little use of their time, much less use of their time, and they've done well with it. So maybe they've given themselves a chance, they've maybe offered a conversation, and Ange Postecoglou has spoke about that and created a conversation. Ange Postecoglou was speaking in the Daily Record. This is what he had to say in regards to the current players loaned now. He said, "We'll wait until the summer. It's good to see Liam doing so well at Aberdeen. When you put guys out on loan, you hope they get good experience and make an impact. Liam has done that, and I know Barry Robson and the club have been really happy with him. But those decisions will be made at the end of the year. We'll see what's best for him and the club. The guys will all need some sort of clarity moving forward. We will look at them all on an individual basis, and we'll get to that when the time is right." So keeping his cards close to his chest as always, Ange Postecoglou, and obviously he focuses very much so and very specifically on Liam Scales here, but then obviously talks about the rest of the guys in more of a general term. Liam Scales will have a conversation with the club, and so will all the rest of the guys loaned out. Going off the manager's comments, I don't think that the decisions are going to be very positive, in the sense that they will go on to make a big impact or stay at Celtic. I think many of these guys are going to come in for a conversation, and they're going to realise that the grass is greener elsewhere, and they're probably better taking other opportunities that they might get offered. Now, whether that's a permanent transfer, whether that's another loan move, then I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in the situation right now where I have the insider knowledge to say that these clubs are interested or there's a move coming here. But just going off what Ange is saying, I think when you look at what's right for some of these guys, I think what's right for the majority of them is probably taking the positives from this loan move and using it to find another place to go. I'm trying to say that as respectfully as possible. I don't mean that they should never get a game for Celtic again and they're not good enough and they should never play. But you just look at the majority of players there, the likes of Barkas and Ajeti, first of all, it's done, it's over. They need to move on. We need to try and bring in as much as we spent somehow, or bring in as much as we can close to that as possible. They need to go. Some of the other guys, Origide, Shaw, players like that, Johnston, it's never going to work out for them at Celtic, I don't think. And for the sake of their own careers, there's no point in holding it up here. Johnson has went and done a cracking job in Portugal. Let him continue it. Let him go and pursue a move and get first team football, because he's probably not going to break into the Celtic first team with the wingers that we have. Origide, for example, just simply not good enough. But he should be allowed an opportunity to try and better himself. Is he going to get that opportunity in Celtic's first team? Absolutely not. So I think that most of these conversations upon the return of these players will be very much kind of dictated around the fact that you should go in for the sake of your career. There's no point hanging around here. You're not going to get the chance. We're only going to get better. We're going to make more and more signings. We're going to spend big in this window again. And that just means it's got to go further down the pecking order for guys like Origide, guys like Shaw. It's never going to work out. Don't get me wrong, I think a couple of the younger guys, the likes of Johnny Kenny, for example, I don't think it's not over for those kind of players. I think that the ones that we've brought in with an eye to the future, and maybe can still tap into that because they've not had a chance in the first team yet. There's certainly room for that. Maybe get them another loan move, maybe give them more time away elsewhere in the younger teams. Just give them the opportunity to try and get better before we completely disregard them of a first team chance. There will be a time it comes when they go, yeah, they're good enough or they're not good enough to get into that team. But there's certainly conversations to be had with all of these players, and I think everybody's path will be different, but for a large amount of them, I think that the grass is greener elsewhere. We've heard comments in regards to a couple of the players, and some comments from one of the players themselves in regards to their future. They've basically given it away that they don't want to be at Celtic next year. But one guy I want to talk about, Adam Montgomery, because he was getting some good praise from St Johnstone manager Stephen McLean for the progress he has made while he's been at St Johnstone. Stephen McLean was asked about Adam Montgomery and whether or not he should have been awarded or not up for the nomination, for Young Player of the Year. And McLean said, yeah, he's been outstanding. He will tell you himself that he's improved since he's been here. Everyone can see that he's improved massively, and I know Celtic are happy. It's a credit to all parties. As a young player at Celtic, he probably didn't have to defend as much, so this is why it's been a good loan for him. Some really good comments. Had a solid enough season at St Johnstone. He's one of those guys. Will he be offered an opportunity at Celtic? Is he good enough to come in and battle the likes of Greg Taylor and Bernabe? A lot of people will say he probably can battle Bernabe. Or is it just a case of we sign another left back and then once again Montgomery's in the same position? Once again, I'll say this, and I keep repeating the same point. A club like St Johnstone, if they're willing to take the opportunity on him, they can afford it, or even loan him back out. Maybe that's the best thing for guys like Montgomery. Is his future going to lie at Celtic? He probably needs one more chance. Will he get that chance though? And finally, my man, Vasilis Barkas, he spoke to the media back home in Holland in regards to his future and whether or not he'll be a Celtic player next season. He commented saying, it was hard for me. I was at Celtic in a period with COVID. I went back to the Netherlands and found a different mentality. It also has several Greeks here. The team trusted me and have helped me get back on track. I like the Netherlands. My family is happy here. My wife and child, I have a month left and we'll see what happens. I think he's hinted very strongly that he would like to stay, maybe not even at Utrecht, but in Holland at least. And Celtic know that he's a player use quotation marks here, in demand. Teams are apparently looking at him. Utrecht have obviously expressed interest. Now it's just about Celtic having to try and recoup as much as they've lost on him. I would be willing to just cut as many losses as possible and just let the guy move on for the sake of himself, but obviously it's a business and we want to try and make as much money as possible. But I think he's certainly off. I think he'll move on next year. He's one of the loan players who are guaranteed to move on, and that's what I mean with all the loan players. It's never bitter. I never want any of these players to go for any other reason other than the good of their own careers, because football is a short career. We know that. It's not a lifelong career. You play football for 10-15 years at the top level. And I think that these guys should be allowed the opportunity to maximise those 10-15 years rather than spending 3, 4, 5 of them maybe trying to battle their way into a Celtic team. That's always been my outlook on things when it comes to some of these players who find themselves in loan cycles. And I think it's just for the best of themselves. Overall thoughts then. Let's wrap it up in terms of the loan moves. Out of those, let's say 11 players right now, because Iniguchi's not back to January. Out of those 11 players, how many of them do I think will stay and have a future at Celtic next season? Honestly, none. Yeah, I'm just being honest. I don't think they will. I could run through and give reasons why for every player very quickly, but then I don't want to drag it out too much. I just think that if they don't move on permanently, they'll move on yet again in a loan capacity, or they'll play for the B team or whatever. They're not going to have an impact in the first team next season. I don't think any of them will. And I don't mean that to be cruel. I just think that shows the quality of what we have right now. Anyway, how nice is it this season that we don't need to talk about players on loan at Celtic that we're desperate to keep? We're beyond that at this point. It's fucking brilliant. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. I hope you have. And I'll see you all next time.